Our next speaker, Jessica Shearer, has been working inside the Occupy movement as a faith and labor organizer. She comes from a more traditional background in the labor movement, and most recently directing the SEIU's healthcare education project here in New York. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about the Occupy movement and labor in particular, and the sort of the way these two different kinds of institutions are interacting and bumping into each other and maybe affecting each other.
Okay, quick question, because some of these things I've never said in public before, so I'm a little curious about who's in the room. How many people here are Occupy people, including supporters in any way? Any labor people in the room? I know a few. Tea Party folks?
Oh, it's lonely.
And personal democracy media folks. All right, thanks. I've worked for the labor movement for 14 years. I love unions. We're huge multiracial membership organizations. We grow the middle class. We brought the world the weekend. Still, everywhere, unions stagnate. We shrink. Unions fall victim to our own scale and sophistication. We know that Occupy is important, but we're still learning its lessons. We're now in a movement moment. Finally, my first. This could be a period of tremendous growth. The time is therefore ripe for a little self-criticism. I'll start with a story I know best, my own. In '91, the townhouse I shared with my mom and two little sisters went into foreclosure. She called the bank, and then she called her union. No response. To keep us housed, she married hastily. Our bills got paid, but we weren't safe. 2 years in, we gathered everything we could carry in garbage bags, and we fled. We'd always had a tenuous but middle-class existence. My stepfather's brutality left us terrified and homeless. My mom called her union again. No response. Not a single word. Not ever. In desperation, she turned to the evangelical church. By nightfall, we had a place to stay and a turkey stew. Within a month, an affordable rental and the furniture to fill it. The union wouldn't have had to guarantee us a home. A call back would have helped. A casserole might have won my mom over for life. 17 years later, my mom and both my sisters are active in the evangelical church. They vote Republican. They hate unions. In the years since, labor has gotten smarter. We've gotten more strategic, but there are even few casseroles these days. Lacking the personal touch impacts not only loyalty, but also mobilization. 2010, let's juxtapose two rallies. One, Restoring Honor, headlined by Glenn Beck and Sarah Palin. The other, One Nation, organized by the NAACP and SEIU. Truth, the Tea Party rally kicked our butt. In marching in King's footsteps, we did not suffer from a lack of moral authority. SEIU is hands down the largest civil rights organization in the country. Our problem, radically oversimplified, was buses. My union paid for enough buses to send 50,000 people to the rally for free, but we couldn't fill them. For turnout, we used our large professional call center and mass mailings. We had the infrastructure, but they, you, had something visceral, intangible, and priceless. Momentum, a meaningful sense of ownership. We missed that. Flash forward 368 days, October 5th. Unions are racing to catch up with the fierce and nimble kids in the park. Labor's endorsement confers a legitimacy. Occupy's numbers swell to 12,000 that day. For the first time in a labor march, almost every single sign is handmade. By November 17th, tents are out, but the unions are all in. The crowd grows to 33,000. Worlds collide a little. Mary Kay Henry, president of SEIU, starts the day by endorsing Obama, a year before the election. She ends that day putting her body on the line and getting arrested for Occupy. Occupy has charted a course outside the electoral system. And where has that gotten them? Electeds are flocking. Many have suddenly noticed a decades-long crisis in income inequality. Our own Governor 1% reversed himself on taxing the wealthy. That's a $2 billion win. Not bad for a movement with no demands. The rapid response, follow the anger quality of labor's jump into Occupy is to be celebrated. But neither October 5th nor N17 could boast a whole lot of union members. Union leaders rolled deep, union staff out in force, but in New York, 1 in 4 working people are union members. That's millions. We haven't gotten there yet. To say labor is at a crossroads is a gross understatement. Labor is on the edge of a cliff. What we lack, what we feel we can no longer afford, is human-scale outreach. Decades of defeat have reined in our imagination. We once aspired to be the left wing of the possible. These days, we're barely even the left wing of the Democratic Party. In 2008, we learned something about storytelling, but the story we told over and over was Obama's. We need to tell our own stories. Our stories are powerful, and every member has one. I'm not advocating a naive passivity or an abandonment of corporate campaigns, but a radical listening, an interest in our membership that transcends our mobilizations and can thus inform them. Occupy Wall Street can teach us much. I'm not sure Occupy Congress is it. There are hundreds in Congress who could do way better by us, and they're by no means limited to just one side of the aisle. Down at Zuccotti, there are dozens of spiral notebooks full of the names of union members who want to get involved. The rank and file subcommittee of the Labor Working Group has 4 or 5 subcommittees of its own. They're meeting nonstop, and they're having so much fun. Witness the fight outside Sotheby's, where the Teamsters have been locked out for months. Since Occupy started, the stately block on the Upper East Side echoes with mayhem. Tactics evolve from hour to hour. Workers and occupiers huddle on the corner to decide what's next. Will they riot? Will they dance? Sotheby's is totally unnerved. Most unions don't know what to do with this kind of self-organization. People want to be asked to do more. Maybe they don't want to rally in DC or sit in the Sheraton getting a pep talk before each election. We don't know. We don't ask. Maybe what they want is to deliver a casserole to the family down the street with beer in their eyes, or start a softball league. We should want that too. It's not an alternative to real organizing. It is real organizing. What's held unions back? A lot. Right to work laws, corporations that may be too big to organize, an emboldened right, and a fear of risking our power, alienating our friends. So what can Occupy do for the labor movement? Everything. We can learn to listen to each other, feed each other, think bigger. The math is against us, but if we've learned anything from Zuccotti, it's that there's more than just numbers. We are hopeful, and we are pissed off. Our best hope? The 30,000 fired Bank of America workers see themselves in the eyes of the locked out Teamsters. With wind at our back and a labor movement that's truly 15 million workers strong, our most daunting organizing challenges become winnable. If what began as a trickle down at Zuccotti can become a tsunami that reaches deep into the workplace, we can tackle Bank of America one day and Walmart the next. It will not be simple, but the visionaries at Occupy are right. This is the beginning of the beginning, or it can be. I've run a lot of political campaigns. I ran 9 states for the Obama campaign, and I'd want to tackle some of the political questions about Occupy Wall Street. And the first, I think I just need to look at what the Obama campaign did right, and then what the Obama, not the administration, but the party and OFA did so wrong, was that there were all these people. I mean, the list that the Obama campaign put together is the best list in history. That is not a list that would like demand medical marijuana. Like, that is a list that is truly representative, that is deep in all kinds of communities across this country and around the world, because we had to keep refusing money from like foreigners. But that list was amazing, and I'd never been a real big Dean person, you know, but if Dean had been put in charge of the Democratic Party after that election, that list like might have really built the democracy. It might have built a party. It might have allowed people a place to engage in the election. It might have, you know, it might have helped Obama's presidency. Like, it might have changed the way he governs. Instead, it was this like weak echo chamber where they couldn't be one step to the left or one step to the right of anything the president said. And the place I saw that most viscerally was in healthcare reform. The day that Obama came out and said, look, I don't think we're gonna have the public option, there was all these forums around the country of OFA, and their message was, we don't need the public option. SEIU came out that same day and said, it's all right if we don't have a public option. And it was just like, it was a collapse. Like, that should have been the moment where people threw him against the wall and said, we demand a public option. And he should have said, look at these crazy people. What am I gonna do? I have to give somebody a public option. But that didn't happen because that movement was, you know, their legs were cut off like immediately after the election. And Occupy is doing the opposite. Occupy is changing the space. Occupy has already changed the conversation. It's changed the conversation in New York. It's changed what the president is saying pretty radically. It's changed the constituency people think that they have to speak to. And I am somebody who's run so many political elections, asked so many people to vote, knocked on so many doors, gotten so many people to do that. And I hope that Occupy doesn't do that. I hope that Occupy, at least not for a long time, doesn't engage that way in electoral politics, that they continue to push the conversation, they continue to shift the ground, they continue to like expand our political imagination, and like they let the politicians try to work it out amongst themselves and come to us and figure out, you know, how to speak to the 99%. I want to speak to a moment about democracy. We kind of throw that word around and we use it as if like that's still the dominant political system we have. And I really think, and I'm not somebody who's traditionally a conspiracy theorist on this stuff, but Citizens United gutted that, like gutted the remnants of that. Like the power that corporations have to contribute from their general treasury secretly is the reason that Rubin and Summers continued to run financial policy after a man who was elected because the economy had collapsed promised to do something different. We handed it off to the same people that created the problems because there's so little room up there. Like, there really is a ton of control. And so our ability to get new candidates, to have the candidates we used to like do the kinds of things we think they should, is so limited by how much money is out there and how little of that is controlled by us. So we really need the kind of sea change. We really need the kind of shifting of the ground to begin to, like, you know, fight back. I mean, it really is a plutocracy, and democracy really is like on the edge and on the way out. Like, if something dramatic, much more dramatic than voting, like, doesn't change.
Thank you.